So, I know you'll have heard stories about how Aaliyah was given a sedative and carried unconscious on the plane that claimed her life. How her mother, Diane, supposedly sold her out, and how her uncle, Barry Hankerson, suspiciously received a $90 million settlement for Aaliyah's passing.
Barry, when Aaliyah died for a wrongful death, he got paid $90 million for her death. Am I supposed to say that on TV? Sue me, I ain't got nothing. So I was with him on the negotiation.
But do y'all know the real reason Aaliyah's family literally sold her out? And did they actually plan her death? I mean, we know that Aaliyah always traveled with her family members because she was scared of flights. But surprisingly, on the day she died, she was alone. Makes you wonder, did her own mother know that something was wrong with the plane and intentionally stay behind? Well, Nicki Minaj has got people digging deeper into what really happened to Aaliyah after she alleged that Jay-Z is a PDF for being involved with Aaliyah when she was young. And now people are uncovering all sorts of things about Miss Diane. And it's just crazy, y'all. This woman may have sold her daughter for real. Okay, just for a bit of background to kind of get to really know the mum company. I realized not so many people know her backstory. Diane was born on January 11th, 1951, in New York and is the younger sister of American record producer and label owner Barry Hankerson. She was married to Michael H. Houghton and had Rashad, born August 6, 1977. And, of course, Aaliyah, born January 16, 1979. What you should know is that in the beginning, Diane was a stay-at-home mom for a lot of Aaliyah and Rashad's early life, and she really took to wanting to take care of them and be there for them. And her husband, Michael, was in the warehouse business. Now, as for how Diane discovered that Aaliyah was talented, Aaliyah used to listen to her mother sing around the house when her mother would play all kinds of records. Then, when Aaliyah's mother discovered she could carry a tune and that Aaliyah enjoyed entertainment after being cast in her school play for Annie, she decided to take the wheel on getting Aaliyah's career off the ground. Remember, Aaliyah's mother was the sister of Barry Hankerson, who at the time was married to Gladys Knight. So it was pretty easy for Aaliyah to travel with Gladys, watch her perform, and even perform with her from time to time. Basically, she learned everything she could from her aunt and eventually went on to get signed at her own uncle, Barry Hankerson's label, Blackground Records, at the age of 12. Here's where things started getting a little bit messy. Well, very messy. The thing is, Aaliyah spent most of her career being primed by much older industry men. And it's bizarre how her family never seemed bothered by all these men who were always around Aaliyah. First, it was R. Kelly. C. Once Aaliyah got signed to Blackground Records, she met recording artist and producer R. Kelly shortly thereafter. He then became the lead songwriter and producer of her first album, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number. But then R. Kelly did more than just contribute to Aaliyah's career because he introduced Aaliyah into a very controversial and highly inappropriate relationship before forging documents to marry her. Based on reports, she may have been expecting it as well. And to make matters worse, R. Kelly forged documents and forced a marriage ceremony to ensure that as his wife, Aaliyah would not be forced to testify against him in the court of law. At that time, everyone who worked in the music industry knew about the disturbing allegations surrounding R. Kelly. And yet, Aaliyah's own family practically gave her to Kelly. I mean, just look at how worried this man was when they asked Aaliyah her age during an interview.
Talking a lot of smack. Talking about age ain't nothing but a number, girl. I was like, what you trying to say? So immediately I heard the song, and I said, I called her back 15 minutes later, told her, check this out. So we cut the track right then and there.
And for the record, you are how old? That's a secret. Women doesn't disclose her age.
But it gets worse, guys. The 2019 Lifetime documentary Surviving R. Kelly alleged that Aaliyah's parents were in contact with R. Kelly when he married Aaliyah, and they assured him they wouldn't press charges. I know what. And as a thank you, R. Kelly reportedly sold the rights to his first 3 albums to Aaliyah's family. Aaliyah's parents quickly also had the marriage annulled in February 1995, and an NDA was signed between Aaliyah and her parents with R. Kelly, vowing that they would never talk about it. And guess what? Aaliyah's mom even claimed that the background dancers and singers who claimed to have witnessed an inappropriate relationship between Aaliyah and R. Kelly was lying, and they didn't know Aaliyah. Allegedly, Aaliyah's mom is even the one who convinced her to lie about the relationship with R. Kelly during the interview. I am really busy with the career and the fact I'm getting ready to go back to school. So I just see how it works out. 3 years ago, there was this terrible rumor out. What is the deal with you and Ron Kelly? Are you all married or not? No, I'm not married. Robert still thinks I'm doing my thing. He's a great producer and a great artist whom I do admire. And, there's nothing at all. Like, how disgusting is that, honey? To a lot of people, it just never made sense how Aaliyah's mother allowed her to be around all these men. R. Kelly, Diddy, Jay-Z, and Dame Dash. All these people were grown men. And others like Timberland were also out here publicly saying that they wanted a piece of her too. Actually, in a 2011 episode of A True Hollywood Story, Timberland admitted he was intimately attracted to Aaliyah when they first met. But the problem is that they were introduced during the creation of Aaliyah's sophomore studio album, One in a Million, which she began recording at the age of 16. And at the time, Timberland was 23. Another thing you should know is that Aaliyah attended Diddy's parties. I don't know whether she stayed for the FOs, but we have seen photos of her from the parties. Like there's a photo at Diddy's 4th of July party on July 2nd, 2000, where they are cozied up in bed. Diddy and Aaliyah have also been photographed together a few times, like this time in 2001 during the MTV Movie Awards, and several other times if you go down that rabbit hole like I did. In fact, she was always with those people. The next thing we know, Aaliyah was involved in a plane crash that claimed her life. And nothing has ever made sense since. Okay, as far as the things that never made sense about the death, the first thing is that the small plane exceeded its maximum weight limit by several hundred lb, which would have made the plane harder to control once it got into the air. Other than the weight that was already an issue, apparently the pilot had also reportedly faked his license and was under the influence of alcohol and other stuff at the time of the accident. Then we also have someone like Kathy Ian Dolly, who wrote in her book Baby Girl, better known as Aaliyah, that someone named Kingsley Russell, whose family ran a taxi and hospitality business in the Abaco Islands, was with Aaliyah as his stepmother drove her team to the airport for her return flight back to the US. He said that when Aaliyah saw the plane to take her back to the US mainland, she refused to get on board and went back in the cab. Then someone from her entourage returned to ask her what was wrong. And Aaliyah is said to have repeated her concerns about getting on the plane that was overweight, at which point she was handed a sleeping pill and fell into a deep sleep before she was carried on board again. Why would they need to carry her on board when she was asleep after she had specifically said she did not want to board that plane? Anywho, what Nicki Minaj and other people are saying right now is that maybe it's time that Aaliyah's family members, especially her mother, are held accountable for what happened to her because there's no way they did not know what was happening. Well, the family members have also been asked if they were aware of what was going on. And in an interview with Dr. Oz, Aaliyah's uncle, Barry Hankerson, claimed that he had no clue about R. Kelly and Aaliyah's relationship, but he said his sister and Aaliyah's mother, Diane, was definitely aware of it. He claimed that he didn't know what was happening, which is hard to believe. But tell me why Aaliyah's Uncle Barry received $90 million from her death. And word on the street was Aaliyah was allegedly about to leave his label once her album dropped. But Barry signed a liability agreement 5 days before her passing, saying that if anything bad were to happen to Aaliyah, Blackground wouldn't be held responsible. Clearly, all Barry cared about was recouping his money back and using his niece. And it's always been clear that he never cared for Aaliyah, just the money she brought in for Blackground. What we are yet to figure out is why he signed a liability agreement 5 days before her passing. Like he knew what was about to happen to Aaliyah. Child, people really just want answers, and Nicki Minaj has been pouring gasoline on the fire these past couple of weeks. She already suggested that there have been sacrifices happening in Hollywood when she shared pictures of Jay-Z posing with Aaliyah and Beyoncé in 1996 and 1997. And over the images, she shared the ages of all 3 artists. In addition, Nicki also shared another picture of Jay-Z and Aaliyah and called out Jay for being a PDF. She also wrote in another tweet, "Imagine if a 30-year-old rapper was out here with a 16-year-old in this day and age, and how y'all would have his head on a platter." The guy was hugging and humping on them in broad daylight. Next, I'll get on the owner of the Shade Room and more. Well, now she has people looking into Aaliyah's mother and questioning whether her greed made her sell Aaliyah and to what end, because she ended up losing her cash cow. I also wonder how Aaliyah's brother, Rashad, is dealing with all these, especially given the recent allegations. Maybe It's really sad, but I'd love to know what you think about Aaliyah's mother selling her out. So, sound off in the comments section below.